Welcome to my own FP. In this video, what we're going to take a look at is a CPP Sweep. So we're going to go based on our current MTI 2025 scenario for Mary and Harry Cherry. And we're going to go from age 60 to age 70 and compare and see what that sweep tells us. So let's go into the software. We have set our MTI 2025 scenario currently done. So we're going to run the sweep. We're going to label this just CPP. And it's a CPP only sweep. We're going to look at CPP, state residual, and investable assets. And then we're going to look at nothing there. The tax, we're going to look at our overall tax rate. We're going to go from 60 to age 70, incrementing by 2, just because it's a lot of lines otherwise to look at. It's going to have 24 lines on this chart, so you kind of don't want to select too many accounts or make the increment ridiculously hard, too much. So let's take a look. Run the sweep. And we end up with a lot of lines. So let's very quickly take a look at the CPP lines. So we can see that we start taking some at 60, or we take some at 62, we take some at 64, some at 66, 68, 70. The first 3 lines are a little bit closer together because you are receiving the income, the negative 0.6 per month. And then the top lines are a little bit higher, have a slightly higher differential because there's plus 0.7 per month. The middle one is kind of half and half. It's a 6 and a 7 because we went from 64 to 66. So that just shows you that for those accounts, we were definitely increasing our values. If you want to look at those in $20 to $25, they're consistent over time. You get that CPP, you get that for life in that current thing. Obviously, it's inflating, but that's really what happens here. So let's get rid of those lines for now. So let's take a look at our investable assets. So you can see they're quite a bit different. They start off, relative to how our CPP is and things like that. We're starting off, if we drag along the bottom, we're seeing that the worst case in the short to medium term is the CPP at 70. And then at about age 86, then the CPP at 60 is now the worst case. Okay, for investable assets. If we look at the top, CPP at 60 is always going to be the top. Then for a while, let's see where that breaks. So 73, 74, 62 takes over. 62 takes over. And then there's a big, they all sort of come together at the same point at 87. So 64, 66, and 68 are kind of all sort of coming together at the same point at age 87. And actually you go from age 62 being the winner at age 86 to being 68 being the winner at age 87. So in terms of investable assets, there's other aspects too that we want to look at. And then 68 retains the lead for a bit of time, and then at age 92, taking CPP at 70 definitely wins out, and at 95, the difference in our investable assets between there is $7,000, so not significant. We have $1 million in investment. This is for Mary. we could look at the same for Harry, but it's basically going to be the same. So taking that into account, those two lines are very similar. Obviously, if you live to 100, 105, then the CPP at 70 is going to win out. The 68 to 70, if it did 69, it would probably be in the middle. 70 probably wouldn't even win out till 95, practically in that case. You can see 60 is quite a bit lower now. It's really dropped off. This is why it's not, you can't look at things in a silo. Taking things at 70 versus 60 and then not worrying about taxes or OAS, clawbacks, and all of the other aspects of what you're going to plan to do. It's important that you take all of it into account because it's not just linear. Like the CPP is linear. It's, it's 42% here, it's 36% there, or 35% at the 69, goes down each level. But there's nonlinear effects in your when you build your whole bundle together. So that's your investable assets. Let's turn off the tax rates just so we can see what those look like. So our tax rate through most of our life stays the same. It's interesting, there's a slight bump for something here at 64 because that is the age we're taking 64, so all of a sudden that got a little bit higher. I think that year might be the year or the year after that we have a car purchase as well, so it's relatively the same. So they're all the same in terms of taxes that you're paying for the most part, 11.83 to 11.93. So we're going to pay slightly more taxes. And you're paying that all the way along. 70 is looks like it's mostly the highest tax rate for most of the years. That's because we're taking more out of our RSP, so we have to actually take more. We are actually going to pay more tax all the way along while we're taking money out of our RSP. And then it's interesting that it drops a little bit at 87 once the other lines, but then really the CPP at 70, we're going to pay more tax as well later on, but that's because we have a higher CPP. So that's just, higher CPP ends up being a slightly higher tax rate than it would be if I took it at 60 sort of thing. If I take my CPP at 60, then I'm going to pay the lowest tax rate but I have the least set of assets other than my TFSA and my house. So I have not much else that I can draw that's taxable, which again may or may not be useful. So that's our tax rates and how that would work. And then let's look at our residuals. 60. This is going to follow our investable assets for the most part. So if you look at the top line, our residual CPP at 60 is the winner until we get to CPP at 62 at age 77, which is just like the investable assets. And then it goes from 62 to 68. So all the ones in the middle are not really that good. They all kind of converge at age 86. And really, CPP at 70 is converging at that sort of same point as well. So at age 87, they're kind of all right on the same line for the most part. So age 87, age 60, CPP at 68. And then at 92, just like investable assets, the estate residual. And if we look at that, 2.15 million, 2.14. So in future dollars, that's a $7,000 difference, which was the same as it was in our investable assets. So that's all going to be TFSA for the most part. But if we look at 2.15 million to 2.04 million, so that's $110,000 in my estate. That's so 5% of my estate is going to be because I took CPP at 70. So definitely, if you take it later, 68 69 obviously would be in between there. If I'm living anywhere between up to 95, 92 to 95, then definitely that is the way to go. One of those 3 years. When people say what's the optimal year, there, there's an optimal year for one specific data point. If I live till 91 or 91 and a half or 92 and 3/4, so take it with a grain of salt as to what the optimal taking out of your CPP is going to be. That's how that works. So the fact that they're relatively same, 68 and 70, you could say take either or. Take a CPP at 70 definitely wins out if you're going to live longer. There's other aspects to taking a CPP at 70 that, or later at least anyway, that win out, obviously. It's guaranteed more for longer. It's a hedge against inflation since it's already indexed. It's a hedge against any investment bias you might have in your own investments, and it's a hedge against, that long life sort of thing. So you really want to take a look at that. And if you really, even here, if you look in, if you look at here, 1.65, 1.7, you really are $50,000 difference between taking it at age 74. It's not significant there. It definitely gets much more significant at the longer you live, sort of thing. So it's that hedge against inflation and against long life and your investment bias in your own. If you have a defined benefit thing, you're not managing your own assets, then that's one thing. If you have to, manage all your own assets, even through an advisor, then you have to worry about that investment bias of your advisor as well, sort of thing. So if you're on a full defined benefit pension plan where you're gonna get the money regardless, it's less of an issue for sure. So that's the CPP sweep. That's how that sort of definitely works. And if we want to, we could run another one. Let's just run another one just quickly. And let's just do the CPP and OAS. We're going to take off the CPP account because it's not that exciting. The investable assets, we'll get rid of our investable assets account. So we're just into the state residual and our overall tax. And what the CPP and OAS will do, let's do this and OAS. So we have both of them. So if you do both, it'll take CPP at 60, OAS at 65, then 62 and 65, 64 and 65. After you're at 66, it'll take CPP at 66 and OAS at 66. At 68, it'll take both of them at 68 and both of them at 70. So let's run that and see how that differs. Our tax rate looks very similar. In this case, our tax rate at 70 is the highest for the most part as we're sort of going along. And then at 64, 65, it actually is, so it's basically their minute differences, 0.01 difference, I guess it is in this case. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. So let's ignore the tax rates. Eventually, CPP at 70, OAS at 70 is going to be your highest tax rate. There's no question about that. Just because you're getting more money, which is good. The estate residuals, if you look at this now, OAS and CPP at both at 70, you have this is Mary again, $5.2 million. If I look at this one, 5.198, so $25,000 or so. So 222 versus that. So we're talking $300,000 difference now between those two, between 60 and 65 and 70. So it's again, relative to your $5 million state, or if I take this as joint and I look at OAS at 70 and not tax rate, that's like the residual at 70 and 65. You're looking at $9.9 million on taking it all as early. and 10.6 or sort of thing. So so $600,000 difference at the end of life for for the estate for both individuals. So that's nothing to sneeze at. That's now 6% of your estate, which is now starting to get significant. If you're planning on passing away early, which hopefully nobody's really planning that necessarily. Certainly the lower one has a better value early on. That's just the way it's always going to work. It doesn't really cross here from your estate residual until about 86, and then it crosses. And the other one, if you take it at 68 or both at 69, for example, it doesn't really cross here until age 93. And I would expect 69 would actually be the winner at 93 and probably at 94, and 70 might not cross over until the very end here at 95, sort of thing. So again, there is no magic. What is my best year to take OAS and CPP? It depends on this scenario. It depends on what year I'm looking at and what my risk tolerances are and other things like that. And it also would depend a lot on what your account values are and all your other different accounts because of how much tax you may or may not be paying and that sort of thing. So it's useful to look at and understand where it might be. Definitely, if you look at the OAS at 60 and 65, it's definitely the loser if you live in a reasonable long life, or if you just want to make sure there's a longevity risk associated with you. So yeah, you can look at it and go, sure, at 86 it actually 62 would win out. Like 60 really never wins out unless you're really I think it's at 73 here. Where is it? Oh, it's a little. So yeah, it's 76. So if you're both planning to pass away early on, now if you can change the scenario as well. You can do one could pass away at 74, one could pass away at 95, and then understand what that might look like. So that can be quite different as well. So take a look, understand what your tolerances are and what this means. It's always interesting and trying to just figure out what that means for you personally and your scenario. So thanks very much for watching, and there'll be more videos to come. Haven't planned what the next one's going to be yet, but here we go. Thanks very much. Bye.